Alright, so 2022's Elvis is written and directed by Baz Luhrmann. I'm pretty sure it's written by him at least. I know for sure that it's directed by him. But he has worked on The Great Gatsby with Tobey Maguire and Leonardo DiCaprio. And I'm pretty sure that's the only movie I've seen that he's done. By the way, if I look sweaty, it's because I am. This car is hot. And I don't have any air on right now, so gonna try to make this review a little quick, but also make it long enough to have like a decent review for this movie. I'm in between movies at the moment, which is why I'm not recording at home. Going to see The Black Phone after this. Probably how much longer? I don't know. About an hour, so I got some time to kill. But yeah, Elvis. You got Austin Butler as Elvis, and just from the trailers alone, I knew he would do a good job. A lot of people were like, he doesn't really look like Elvis. They didn't make him look like Elvis that much. I think he looked a lot like Elvis. I wasn't alive. Well, I definitely wasn't alive when Elvis was alive. And I wasn't alive when he was like a huge hit. So I didn't watch like a whole lot of videos. Also, there's cars going by. Just ignore it. Yeah, I wasn't alive when Elvis was around. He died way before I was born in 1977, and I've never been super connected to Elvis as an artist. I mean, I always liked seeing the Elvis references and hearing the Elvis music in Lilo and Stitch, and that's probably like one of the biggest influences that Elvis has had, like in terms of movies and TV that I've seen and like content that I've consumed. I mean, love that stuff in Lilo and Stitch with Elvis and just having the music and stuff like that. It goes very nicely with the movie. And also, Elvis had a really big concert that he did in Hawaii that was, what's the word? Telegraphed. Yeah, it was telegraphed and like billions of people watched it. But, yeah, he has a big influence there for sure. And I think he's probably done some movies there as well. Elvis, as many of you probably know, but as some of you may not know, he was mainly a musical artist, but he also did acting. There's one movie in particular that I've seen of his, and that's Viva Las Vegas. Don't think I've ever watched any of his other movies, but yeah, he's had his hand in a lot of different things, and the person pulling the strings behind that is Colonel Tom Parker, played by Tom Hanks in this movie. And I will say, I usually try not to watch reviews before I see movies, but I watched the Double Toasted review. By the way, go check them out on YouTube and Twitch and all that stuff. I watched their review of it, and they basically said that Tom Hanks in this movie felt like a cartoon character. And after watching the film and just seeing him for a little bit, like towards the beginning, I'm like, yeah, I can definitely see what they mean. He is very much a cartoon kind of villainish kind of character in this movie, and that's supposed to be what he is made out to be. He's a fucking shitty dude, but I don't know, at times it felt a little too cartoony with his character. I'm not going to give any specific lines that he says or anything like that, but he's just really a slimy dude, and there's times where he has like supervillain monologues and stuff like that, and he's very manipulative. You can see that with a lot of the things that he says to Elvis in this movie to try to keep him with him. But not a good dude at all, but in the movie just kind of played off to be a little too cartoony. There's other actors in here that I wasn't aware that were going to be in here. Cody Smith McPhee, I believe is his name. I remember him from X-Men Apocalypse. He played Nightcrawler there. I also think he might have... Oh, no, he didn't do Ender's Game. But he was also in that movie Power the Dog that was really popular and got nominated for... I can't fucking talk. Got nominated for Oscars, and it has Benedict Cumberbatch on it. It's a Netflix movie. I didn't watch much of it, but yeah, I remember him being in that movie, by the way. Notes here. Also, Dacre Montgomery, hopefully I'm saying his name right, who played Billy on Stranger Things. He was one of the characters in here. And I knew I recognized the character in the trailer. I was like, that guy looks familiar. But I couldn't put a name to his face. And I didn't look it up at the time. I only looked it up after the movie. And I was like, oh yeah, that is Dacre Montgomery. I don't know if it's Dacre or Dacre. I think it's Decker Montgomery, but yeah, I mean, he had a small part. Cody Smith McPhee also had a kind of small part, but it was still cool to see them. There were definitely some good actors in here. There was one that was in the Lord of the Rings movies, but I can't remember his name at the moment. But yeah, some good actors in here. And, I mean, some pretty good visual effects and stuff like that. At times it's a little too much. There's scenes in Vegas where you can tell it's just like mostly CGI, and it's just too much the way they edit things. Which brings me to the main reason why I do not like this movie. It is super fast paced to the point where you can't take time to focus on anything. I mean, there's some things that are focused on more than others, but for the most part, like, things are just kind of skimmed over. I don't know much about Elvis's history. I don't know how much of this in the movie is accurate. I'm sure a lot of it isn't, because, that's just kind of how these movies are sometimes. A lot of things are played for entertainment value, but I don't know. You just never got to really connect with any of the characters. Like Priscilla Presley, like, you should have felt more about her, I guess. But, like, she's barely in the movie, and that's a big character. That's a big person in Elvis's life. So for her to just be kind of overshadowed by everything else kind of felt a little lame. Honestly, Elvis, this is his story for the most part. But at the end of the day, this is Colonel Tom Parker's movie. He does the narration for the movie. And, I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's like the villain is the main character of the movie. And it's fine at times. He's like, oh, they make me out to be the villain. I'm not a bad guy. I'm just, whatever. And he tries to justify it so many times, but he's just such a piece of shit. So, I don't know. I mean, I can't say much about Tom Hanks. I mean, does the prosthetics look good on him? For the most part, yeah. But that's about all it has going for it for me. I think he's just too cartoony. I think he's too, like, villainish, and they just made it like a cartoon movie villain, That's basically what he is. I mean, it comes across to the point where it's just like, yeah, you can tell he's a piece of shit, but at the same time, it's like, how much of this is true? Like, there's one scene where he's just, like, sitting in the dark, basically, just, like, waiting for Elvis to come out of the elevator, and he's just sitting there. I'm like, that is such a super villain move. So it's hard to take certain things seriously, especially, like, there was one part where Elvis was supposed to do some Christmas music, and he didn't want to do it. And, he's, talking about Santa suing people and shit like that. And I'm just like, you're too goofy right now. It's hard to take it seriously. I mean, Austin Butler is the main thing about this movie that I love. In fact, it might be the only thing about this movie that I love. It gives it a lot of points for me for, his performance. I think he definitely should get nominated for an Oscar for his performance as Elvis Presley in this movie. But I don't know. Like I said, it just skims over too many things way too quickly. He's basically like a nobody for a minute, and then it's just like, oh, now he's basically a superstar. It just goes by. The editing is so choppy and so quick. At times, the editing can be cool, where you have, like, you see Elvis in one frame, and then you have him in other frames doing other things, and it's just like showing the different angles and the different viewpoints and stuff like that. It's kind of cool. It works for the most part. But at the end of the day, this movie is just like, the editing is so choppy and all over the place to where it's a little hard to follow certain things. For the most part, you can follow it. It's a pretty simple, straightforward story. But just the way it's edited. And I think this might be a problem I have with Baz Luhrmann, is just his editing. And just like the pacing of his movies, I think, can be a little off. I mean, same kind of goes for Great Gatsby, but it's been a while since I've watched that. One of the things I didn't necessarily hate about Great Gatsby that other people didn't necessarily like was the use of modern music in that movie, even though it's supposed to take place in the 20s. This one, it takes place, throughout the 50s, 60s, 70s, all that kind of stuff. Maybe even a little bit of the 40s. And there's, like, hip-hop music in this. and shit like that. I mean, there's Come Together, which is a song by the Beatles, but they did the cover by Gary Clark Jr., who actually has a cameo in this movie. And, that fits for the most part. I think it fits with the scene. It definitely fit with the trailer. In the movie, it didn't bother me, but when they started playing hip-hop music and stuff like that, especially since they were like, in the kind of ghetto neighborhoods, it's just like, all right, let's start playing hip-hop. That's what people want to see. I'm just like, your target audience probably isn't going to be a whole lot of black people, to be honest, because Elvis took a lot from black people. And in the movie, like, the other black people in there, they're like complimenting him almost for being like, oh yeah, you're playing that one person song. That's very cool, man. That's super cool. I don't think people necessarily think that. I think people are kind of pissed that Elvis kind of stole music from different people. He changed it just enough, but some of it's just like, if you listen to it, there's certain music like Hound Dog that was taken from somebody, like a black artist. What was the other one? Oh shoot. Oh no, I can't remember the other song at the moment, but like, he's taken music from other black people and he's tried to, there's been things where it's like, oh, he's on our side and stuff like that, and he's progressive and stuff like that, and he loves black people and stuff. I mean, he grew up in the ghetto. He probably had black friends and stuff and had a lot of black influences, especially in his music. There's no question about that. There's a lot of black influence in his music, like R&B and stuff like that, things that stem from black people doing music. And I don't know, these days people are probably going to be a little more, maybe not triggered, but a little more upset when they find out about stuff like that. Not everybody knows about stuff like that, but if they found out, certain people would be freaking out, and then other people would be like, I don't really care. But for me personally, I'm just like, I don't know, was he that great of a guy? I don't think so, especially with the whole like Priscilla shit. People think that he groomed her when she was 14, and personally, I don't know for sure if that's true. Excuse me. I don't know for sure, 99.9% sure, or like even 100%. I'm not even fucking 50% sure that happened. I don't know. It's a 50-50 thing right now, but when that scene came up, when we met Priscilla, I was just like, 14. She was fucking 14, dude. 14, and you're just trying to seem nice and romantic and sweet. And I'm just like, I'm not buying it. I'm not. I really am not. So I don't know. It's tough. I mean, like, I love a lot of these biopic movies about bands and artists. Like Walk the Line, especially with this movie, that's one that comes to mind. With Joaquin Phoenix, that is like one of the best, musician biopics out there, period. I think Rocket Man's pretty good. They do a lot of different things in Rocket Man, so that it's not necessarily historically accurate, or I don't know. It's not necessarily a biopic. I mean, there's plenty in there to be a biopic, but it's a lot more artsy. And I feel like that's slightly what this film was going for, but it just didn't do as well. And then like Bohemian Rhapsody, some people hate it, some people love it. I personally love it. I've seen it so many times. I think, can't remember his name at the moment, but the dude who played Freddie Mercury, fucking fantastic, and just love the hell out of that movie. I guess it helps that these are movies from people that I actually like their music. What else? The Dirt, the Motley Crue movie. Not a like Oscar award worthy movie, but I like it a lot. So like, these biopics are typically maybe not made specifically for me, but these biopics, like, especially like period pieces, I love period pieces. If you don't know what that is, it just means like a different time period. And most of the time it's like anything 80s and below is usually really interesting to me. So like 70s, 60s, 50s. So this movie, should have been something I really liked, and it was something I was really looking forward to. But at the same time, I didn't go in with too high expectations because, like I said, listen to that Double Toasted review. So I had prior knowledge to how this movie probably was going to be. And I'm not too surprised either. If I hadn't listened to that review, I probably would have, done the same thing, go in with, medium expectations, still excited to see the movie, but, not expecting it to be fantastic. And that's kind of what we got. So I'm going to stop the recording here. It's getting really insanely hot inside this car. I need some fresh air. So I will give you my ranking for this movie, and that is a 5 out of 10. I'm giving it some benefit of the doubt when it comes to the Austin Butler stuff. I think he did a fantastic job in this movie, and also just the aspect of it being a period piece. For those two reasons alone, that makes the movie watchable for me, but not rewatchable. I'm probably not going to be rewatching this movie. It's like almost an hour and not an hour. It's almost 2 hours and 40 minutes long. And in a way, you feel like they could have cut stuff down, but at the same time, they rushed through things so quickly to the point where it's just like, well, if they cut anything out, then there would be like just gaps here. But they just pass by everything so quickly. It's overly fast-paced and maybe not directionless, but doesn't have a lot of focus. So for that reason, 5 out of 10. Not great. Definitely not the best movie I've seen in a while. I don't think it'll end up on my top 10 worst of this year, but it's not going to end up on my top 10 best. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching / listening. If you're listening on the podcast, leave a like on the video, comment what you thought about the movie if you've seen it, and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next one.